It's time now for business. Brian Quinn joins us, starting with a big decision from one of France's top courts with big ramifications for the future of Uber in this country.
That's right, Mark. Uber's business model in France called into question on Wednesday by a decision from France's Supreme Court for civil and criminal cases. The court upheld a lower decision recognizing the right of Uber drivers to be considered as employees and not independent contractors. The ruling could spell big changes, not just for Uber, but for France's entire gig economy. Ellen Gainsford reports.
It's bad news for Uber in France. The ride-sharing app insists that its drivers aren't employees, but independent contractors, allowing the company to skip many of the usual, costly responsibilities of an employer, like taxes, social charges, and paid leave. But this Wednesday, France's High Court upheld a 2018 decision to reclassify a driver's relationship with Uber as an employment contract.
When connecting to the Uber digital platform, a relationship of subordination is established between driver and the company. Hence, the driver does not provide a service as a self-employed person, but as an employee.
The court said that as Uber drivers are not free to choose their own clients, fix their tariffs, or define their own working conditions, they don't qualify as self-employed contractors. It's far from the first time the company has faced a lawsuit of this kind. In March 2019, Uber paid out $20 million to drivers in California and Massachusetts, settling a lawsuit recognizing them as employees. And in 2016, an employment tribunal in London ruled that drivers should be classed as workers, with access to the minimum wage and paid holidays. This latest ruling in France won't force Uber to sign employment contracts with all French drivers, but it could still have wider ramifications for other players in the gig economy.
Next, yet another warning on global growth from major economic institutions over the coronavirus. Wednesday saw the leaders of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank call for an all-out offensive to fight a worldwide economic slowdown. World Bank President David Malpass warned that the effects would hit poorer countries hardest, calling for plenty of short-term financing to get small businesses through the crisis. IMF Director Kristalina Georgieva says her organization is making available $50 billion in emergency funding, including $10 billion in interest-free loans for the poorest countries. Here she is.
What we are wrestling with is uncertainty, and that defines our projections, which at this point lead us to state that global growth in 2020 will dip below its last year's levels.
Checking in on the markets, Wall Street surged on Wednesday following the surprise strong showing by centrist Democrat Joe Biden in yesterday's Super Tuesday primaries. Healthcare stocks leading the way as the sector frets over the single-payer program of Biden's main rival, Bernie Sanders. The Dow ended the day up over 4.5%, S&P 500 and the Nasdaq not too far behind. European indexes also gained as expectations grow for action from the European Central Bank in the coming days over the coronavirus crisis. London's FTSE 100 ended the day up nearly 1.5%. CAC 40 here in Paris up around 1.33%. The Frankfurt DAX up 1.2% at the close. And finally, for business, as the world fights the coronavirus outbreak, solidarity is taking some unexpected forms. South Korea, the hardest hit nation outside of China, is now seeing its top booze makers jump into the fray. Daesun Distillers usually makes soju, that's the country's national potent potable. Companies pledging 32 tons of ethanol, usually used in the beverage, to be used instead for disinfecting buildings and public places. Now, apparently it does not work if taken internally to disinfect. However, it may allay some anxiety that you may be feeling from the constant coverage of the coronavirus when used internally.
I'm just a little bit puzzled by a drink that has ethanol in it. It kind of strikes me as...
Isn't that the normal in... what's the other one?
I don't know. Maybe I should read the labels a bit closer.
There's two kinds, and one you're really not supposed to drink, but I think ethanol is the okay one.
One goes into cars, doesn't it? You know. Brian, thank you very much indeed. Brian with the business and other questions too. Thank you very much indeed. Let's bring in on the other side of our studio the